As I just mentioned a bit earlier, we are so integral to everything that goes on in life. I mean, where would Shiva be without Shakti, right? So here are all these. I'm going to showcase some gems of our society. Women who have not only broken barriers, they've shaped their destiny, and they have shaped the destiny of others around them, and they've affected positive changes in society as well. So without any further ado, let me call my eminent panel here to the stage in no particular order. Dr. Anita Ratnam, would you please come by? Dr. Damayanti. Anywhere you like. Dr. Madhushri. Mrs. Geeta Atreya. So do settle down because you're going to be here for a little while. I'm going to tell you a little bit about each of these accomplished ladies. So starting with Dr. Anita Ratnam, she is a choreographer, a performer, producer, speaker, mentor, and artpreneur, pioneer of Neo-Bharatanatyam. So this is a unique dance style, and so in case somebody is wondering what that is, it's a unique dance style that has re-assimilated the performative and somatic vocabularies of Bharatanatyam, Kathakali, yoga, and forms that she has been formally trained in. Anita's most notable works in her current repertoire are Nachiar Next, A Million Sitas, which I happen to see as a matter of fact, MA3KA, Seven Graces, Faces, Neelam, and Andal Andal. These, in fact, Andal Andal have, and all the former ones which I just mentioned, have been recognized both nationally and internationally. In 2000, Anita launched Nartaki.com, the largest online portal on Indian dance, and she continues to embrace technology and social media to reach a global audience. She is the recipient of India's Presidential Award in 2016, the Sangeet. Natak Academy Puraskar for Contemporary Dance 2016, and the Vishwa Kala Ratna from Milap Fest, UK, for pioneering arts entrepreneurship, all in 2016. So please put your hands together and say, welcome, Dr. Anita Ratnam. Moving on to our next panelist, we have Mrs. Geeta Atreya. She is currently an independent development consultant, available nationally and globally to governments and developmental agencies, particularly in the domains of health and education, since 2006. She was a full-time officer with UNICEF India for 20 years. There she handled a wide variety of issues: nutrition, micronutrient deficiencies, disorders control, program communications for child survival and safe motherhood, advocacy and partnership for UNICEF, and senior communications officer for polio eradication. Mrs. Atreya holds an MA in economics from Madras University. She has a diploma in early childhood studies from Milton Keynes University, England. She has worked for Citibank and as Glaxo, Grindlays Bank, and so on. She's been involved in the disaster relief after the Gujarat earthquake, and she's a speaker and contributor at several international events, such as the Canada-India Healthcare Summit, the Third World Summit for Children in Greece, the International Union of Health Education Conference in Amsterdam, Communication for Development Conference in Kathmandu, Nepal. Ms. Athrea is on the board of World Health Partners and also on the board of Tri-Impact Global, an NGO committed to ending forced labor and slavery and betterment of worker conditions. Ms. Athrea is a trained yoga teacher, a certified guide at the National Museum in Delhi. So if you need to know anything about the National Museum, she's the one to ask. And her hobbies include growing cacti and succulents and gardening. Her husband, Dr. Mrityunjay Athrea, is a well-known management expert and a Padma Bhushan awardee. Her twin daughter and son are married. I think her daughter is here in the audience. I didn't know you were one of a set of twins. And she resides in Delhi. Going on to our next panelist, Dr. Madhushri. She is actually a gynecologist and is here representing the Global Spiritual Foundation, Divya Babaji Sushumna Kriya Yoga Foundation. Today she will share her dream of safe, cherishable motherhood and holistic healthy baby come true through Sushumna Garbha Sanskar, the Vedic genetic engineering program. And finally, we come to Dr. Damayanti. Dr. Damayanti happens to be my classmate from Grant Medical College in Mumbai, JJ Group of Hospitals. And if you all saw that movie, Gangubai Kathiawadi, well, my friend, Dr. Damayanti, has actually worked in the red light district in that area. So we are going to hear some hair-raising stories from her, I think. So please put your hands together for our distinguished panel. So, Dr. Anita Ratnam, we're going to be asking, let me just mention the format. I'm going to ask them different questions from each young lady here. And then after that, we will open it up to the audience. So if you want to ask our panelists something that you would like clarity on, you could do that too. So Dr. Anita Ratnam, since we are talking about breaking barriers and moving forward with women, can you tell us a little bit about what glass ceilings you had to break? Is that on? Yeah.
It's on?
Yes.
I think on a panel like this, for an occasion like this, it's useful to have the doctor before my title. I am a PhD in women's studies. So to get to that moment, the answer is not short. I think one of the main impulses I had was my family, who themselves were pioneers. I would say more on my mother's side than my father's side. My father's side is more well-known and more celebrated today, but during the independence struggle and before that, I had the most remarkable women, you know. They had learned how to repair car engines to support their families, wearing 9-yard saris, slipping under the chassis of a car, doing some very bold things in their time, joining the freedom movement, getting jailed. So it was all these, my four mothers, as they say. Those were the kind of stories that inspired me. And I always thought that, how do I make a mark? I had no idea. I remember when I was very young, I practiced my autograph. I said, how will the A look? Will I write in the capital A or the big A? So there was something in me that said that, how do I make a mark? One thing about me is because I am known as a performer, a stage performer, and I was never shy. So, and my mother, I think, sensed this in me. She had to fight a great deal, Bhavani, to even give me the opportunity to learn to dance. I am a product of the 1950s, which means it was a time that was of great social change in India. And there were lots and lots of young girls from urban families who were very influenced. I would say my family, our icon was a dancer called Kumari Kamala. And she was a Kamala Lakshman later, But she was such a rage. She was such an icon for our generation. And people would flock to her performances. She was very popular in cinema. And I think she doesn't know, but she propelled an entire generation of young girls. But all the mothers didn't have an easy job. So my mother had to fight her in-laws almost every day because she wanted to give her daughters a chance to learn to dance. So I think my mother was the first to sort of break something, you know. Fortunately, my father just stood by her. He had to listen to all the dant from the elders in the family, but he just stood by Amma. So I think that was my first pathway that my mother opened for my sister and I. And then I think we took to it. But I've always thought that in dance, it's not about telling your story or some other story of the Hindu gods. It's about how can we tell other people's stories. So even when I was early on as a performer, I was always wanting to find out who are the other people who can share the stage with me. Who can I present? Who can I support? Can I do a festival? Can I organize other artists in that same and create an ecosystem? For all of you who are from the United States, I lived in the US for 14 years as a student first, and then I lived in New York City as a television producer. I was amongst the first TV producers of Indian content in the US out of New York. And while it started off as an entertainment show as a producer, and I was New York, you know, is the intersection. Everybody comes through New York. So one got to meet and interview people from politics to pot roast, as they call it, on American TV. And of course, we presented artists and a lot of discussions with film stars and other notables. But I got very involved in the women's rights movement of the South Asian community. And being on a very popular TV show, which was on a Saturday morning, where nothing else was there except cartoons. That was 9 to 10:30. If anybody knows something about Vedic astrology, you will say that is the Rahu Kalam time. 9 to 10:30 on a Saturday. But I got very involved in the community that I was speaking about and, you know, supposedly to represent. And I found that there were a lot of women trapped in very difficult situations at home. We think of the Indian community as the what you call the dream minority, the most successful. But there were lots of darker stories to be told. And I'm talking of the decade of the 1980s, you know, when it was, when communication was much more difficult, where there were still telephone booths where you had to drop in quarters and make phone calls. So we were working with women's groups, and I decided at that time that there was more to having a voice, both in media and in the creative world, that if I couldn't help my own gender, my women, then what really was I doing with the power of the time and the voice? So that's how I got involved in these issues. But I decided to come back to India with 2 young children. And I felt a bit like Sita with 2 young children, no husband. But I stepped outside the Lakshman Rekha with, surprise, nobody from the Indian community came to help me when I was in a very, very difficult situation myself. And I had my American friends who stepped up. The only scolding I got from the Indian community was, you know, I'm bringing Badnaam to heritage and reputation, and I shouldn't be crossing the Lakshman Rekha. Well, that's an old story now. But I think I made the right decision to fight for what I wanted and to come back to India. And I think the glass ceiling was beginning to rupture at many levels. Mm-hmm. One can look at a story like mine and say that I come from privilege, which I acknowledge, but everything has its own flip side. Nothing is easy for women, no matter what strata of society one comes from. You know, good clothes and things can sort of mask some of the tears underneath.
Absolutely.
So
that is something that, you know, I think a lot of women here can relate to, you know, a lot of the physicians. I remember, you know, when I first went to the US, and, you know, here I was a foreign medical graduate, they call them FMG for short, and a woman, so you couldn't be as good as your male counterpart, you had to be better. And you had to prove yourself every single day. So I understand perfectly. And you were a TV celebrity. I remember seeing you on TV.
Somebody came up to me just now and said, yes, weren't you on TV? I said, yes, I was. You recognize me still? She said, yeah, you haven't changed very much. That was about almost 35 years ago. Yeah, and when people said, you're moving back to India, but you're moving back to then Madras, what a loser. It was like, what a loser. You've been married, you have 2 kids, and your life is over. I mean, this came from Indian men.
Yeah.
Apologies, but that was it. Only the men were making these broad, sweeping statements. And so it was not very easy. And I remember I had to ask my father for a credit card. He would say, why do you need a credit card? Won't you be treated by others? It was even parents. My parents, I was the first divorcee in the family. And I remember my parents also, as wonderful as they were, having to deal with it, to grapple with it in their society, in their social circles, and it was a learning curve for them, but they learned very quickly because I think love triumphs all.
True.
Yes.
True.
So I think now I tell not just my stories, I tell the stories of women, and I find women in our epics and our mythology and our stories, and I refuse to tell it the way it is normally received. Like, I refuse to make Surpanakha ugly, hideous, and, somebody, I'm looking at her as with the politics of difference. I'm looking at the politics of desire, which is what the Ramayana is about. And it's about, so how do we excavate these women? How do we retell their stories? How do we make them human before they become either untouchable or gods and goddesses? And this is the path that I navigate. I look for young people, I present young talent, and now you ended about the digital media. I think it's a very powerful tool. Yes. I think it's a very powerful tool in which I've now started using it for mentoring, for inspiration, and to motivate. Yeah. Because I think horizons for young people are much shorter. They want success quicker. I think they have less staying power than us. I can say I've been in this field for 50 years. 50 years on stage, if not more. And I keep wondering how are the next generation going to hang in there for that long or even half as long? So as glamorous as the world, as the life seems, it's a hell of a lot of hard work.
I'm sure.
Yes.
Nothing is easy. If anything's worth doing, I find, it doesn't come easy. Nobody hands it to you on a platter. There's a saying in Tamil, that the banana falls into the milk and the banana and the milk fall into your mouth, But, very seldom does it happen like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on to one of our other panelists, and I'm going to ask Dr. Madhushri why you took the path that you have taken. You are an OBGYN, and you were in Harvard, and you were at the... Okay, here. So, and subsequently, you were in the US, and suddenly you said it wasn't sudden, but one fine day you decided to do something totally different. You want to talk to our audience about that?
Yeah, definitely. Firstly, Om Sushumna to all of you, my greetings, and I wish all of you healthy, prosperous, blissful, and holistic living. As Bhavani was telling, I'm a graduate from Kakatiya Medical College, Warangal, which presently is in Telangana state. And I had been associated with the OBG department of KMC from 1990 to 2010. For a long period of 20 years, I was with the department. And in 90s, we had no corporate healthcare system in Warangal. So my hospital was the only referral hospital, because of which I had the opportunity to deal with all the complications of OBG, which were written in our textbooks. And initially, for the first 10 or 12 years, that gave me immense professional satisfaction. And also, my profession has given me many euphoric times. But later, there was a shift in my perception. So I started pondering on a question: why are all these young women being subjected to so many complications, so many health hazards, high-risk conditions, when pregnancy is not a pathological state. See, all of us know pregnancy is a physiological state which finally culminates in the beginning of a new life. So those moments should be filled with joy, they should be cherishable. But unfortunately, I have seen the other side of it. Though that question was pondering on me, let me be frank, I had no answer, I was clueless to it. Until I was initiated into Sushumna Kriya Yoga. See, Sushumna Kriya Yoga is a meditation which clubs all the 4 major types of practicing meditation practices. So it is considered to be one of the complete form of meditation which delivers the results very fast. And when I was initiated into Kriya Yoga, it was like not out of my own will or out of my own wish. It was some kind of forcibly, I can say, on that day, I was forced to sit into Sushumna Kriya Yoga because Guruma Atmanandamaya Mataji Garu was my guest that day, and she requested me to sit. It was in my own house. She requested me to sit along with her. And as you know, we have the tradition of respecting our guest. We cannot disrespect our guest. So I just sat for meditation thinking that it's only to satisfy her, but I cannot meditate. Because I never believed in meditation. I need to tell you that. I never believed in meditation. I thought it was waste of time. Just closing your eyes and sitting silently. I never thought that will help in any way. So, but I don't know what happened. Maybe that was my destiny, I can say. So that day I went into such a deep state, and I was totally overcome by the energies. Something happened. See, at that particular time, I didn't know they were the energies, but something overwrapped me. And then I asked Mataji, what is that which happened to me? Okay, I now believe that in meditation, there's something happening in meditation, but I need to know what is happening because that is happening to me. It's happening inside me, so I have all the right to know what is happening to me. And Mataji Garu just said, she just said, you ask all your questions in meditation and it will answer to you. But then I even gave her there was something, a clause-like thing, whatever you explain me on scientific terms. Now you can understand, having been trained in the medical sciences, it is not easy to just believe anything without a valid scientific explanation. So even for that, Amagaru said, you do it. And that
see, as doctors, we are all scientists, you know. We believe in cause and effect. So, you know, that goes along perfectly with that philosophy.
Yes, exactly. So as I was practicing Sushumna Kriya Yoga, just to get my answers to the questions of what is meditation, what is happening in meditation, how does it affect or how does it benefit my body, my mind, and all this. I need answers for all these questions. So to get the answers, I was meditating. That was what was told by Mataji. You meditate, you will get your answers. So I was meditating for the answers. And slowly I could understand that meditation is not just a myth, it's not just a belief, but it is complete whole science. And already being trained in medical sciences, it was not very difficult. It was very easy for me to strike a common platform between medical science and spiritual science. And after having understood that Sushumna Kriya Yoga delivers holistic health. So when I say holistic health, this is the definition of World Health Organization. So it is not just physical or mental health, but it goes beyond it. So World Health Organization defines health as a physical, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual well-being. All the 5 elements have to be balanced for a person to be set as healthy. Then I understood that it is Sushumna Kriya Yoga which is delivering all the holistic effects. All of us as physicians, we know that the modern medicine is able to deal with and able to address most of the physical problems, and to a minor extent, I only put it as minor, the mental problems. But then it comes with its own flip side, the disadvantages of the medicines and etc. But do we really have something which can deal with our emotions in our medical sciences? Can anyone?
deal with the emotions in
Can
medical
our
science?
modern medical sciences deal with emotions? Can it address any of our emotional problems? For the patient or for the human, no, see, it's neither the physician is also a person, like a human being can undergo some emotional turmoils. At that time, does a medical science, a modern medical science, does it give any, any solution? Not just complete, it can only give a partial up to mental status, but not to emotional status. The emotional status, our emotions, our fear, our anger, our phobias, our attitude, it all depends on our attitudes, how we are taking life. That is all, that is emotions. But a modern medicine has nothing to do with it. But meditation, the base meditation first attacks emotions. It is first, it redirects our emotions to a positive side. This was what I found out. It was personal. I have experienced the change in me. See, I'm not just going through something which I read in books or read in the literature or through the internet. I experienced myself, the changes in me, the emotional changes, how strong I was becoming day by day emotionally, and that how it was affecting my mental health and my physical health. And at the same time, you know, it is our emotions which decide our social health. Social health is nothing, it is the way we communicate, it's the relations we maintain with our families, friends, society, and especially with ourselves. That is social health. And all this is addressed with by regular practice of Sushumna Kriya Yoga. So I thought, why don't I offer this to my expecting mothers? Maybe it can help them. With that, I started, I have recommended this to my expecting mothers along with the regular prescription of medicines. The OBG advice has to be followed along with regular practice of Sushumna Kriya Yoga, and the results were amazing. See, leave alone an uneventful antenatal period. The most amazing result was in the birthing. The birthing was very safe. It was very natural, safe. At the same time, the time was almost reduced to half, 50% of the normal times which have been prescribed in our textbooks. It was not a precipitate labor. See, all the birthing was very controlled, but the time has been reduced to less than 50%. And you can understand, all of us women can understand how much agony can be cut short when the birthing is reduced, time of birthing is reduced. And the best compliment I got is from the grandmothers. Because in India, it is the grandmothers who rear the infants. It's not the mother, it's the grandmother who takes care of infants. So all of them, they started complimenting me that these babies, they never throw any tantrums. We have no problem with their feeding. And they are very calm, composed when compared to other peers. We have not reared such an infant in my life till day. Some were telling, I have reared 10 of them, my children and my other daughters or sons' children all put together. So many of us, but we have not reared a child who is so healthy, who is so silent, who is so calm, composed.
Well, she brought up a very interesting point about meditation. How many in the audience meditate? Okay, fair number. And is it that you just do it on your own, or do you follow a school of meditation? Okay, so they do that. All right. Moving along, Dr. Damayanti. My next question is for Dr. Damayanti. You remember I said that she worked in the red light district in Mumbai. So can you give us a little bit of background what that must have been like? Yeah,
Mic.
Put that on. Yeah, that should be on now.
Yeah, I think working or no? Working. It's working. Okay.
Yeah, it should be working. It's red.
This is switched off. Okay. Before I begin, I would like to. I have written something like an autobiography, and what I want to say is, Oscar Wilde. He says the autobiography of a man is in his face, whereas autobiography of a woman is in her work in fiction. It's a work of fiction. It's a work of fiction for women. For men, it is their face. So to introduce myself,
Bring it closer.
closer.
Yeah. Better.
I am a 76-year-old lady doctor practicing in one of the second largest slum of Mumbai, that is Kamatipura. The first is Dharavi, and second we come to Kamatipura. The area is known as Kamatipura because mainly it was earlier. This story is about 20-25 years back. It was mainly occupied by Telugu people from Andhra. Most of them were that Kamati people who used to roll bidis. So it was a very low-class poverty area. So how I landed up in Kamatipura is, I was born to my mother was a Malayali and my father was a Telugu. So it began from there, intercaste marriage. And I lost my father when I was 1.5 years old to cancer. And since it was an intercaste marriage, absolutely no support from the paternal side. But my mother, being a Malayali, a strong lady, as you all know from Kerala, we reached where all. She decided to complete her graduation. And the first 8 years of my life I spent in Kerala, where I learnt Malayalam. Why I'm specifying this is because of the language. So I can read and write Malayalam. Then when I was 9 years old, we moved from Kerala to Hyderabad. So in Hyderabad, I studied in a school where we had Telugu and English. So that's how I speak Telugu also and read and write. So till I was 18 years, I was in Hyderabad. At 18, tried to enter medical college, narrowly missed. So then said, as usual, like common, joined BSc. In the meantime, my life took a turn. I was 18 years old. I got a proposal from Bombay from a thorough gentleman who was 33 years. He was already a doctor from same college, my college, Grand Medical College. There was 14 years difference. But seeing my background, and with no family support, I decided, my mother made me understand. So that will be better, because even though, since there is no support system from the family, I think it will be settled because my husband was a thorough gentleman. He was already settled, and he had a decent practice in Bombay and a place to stay in Bombay. And he was staying in this hot red light area in Kamatipura. I had no idea about what all this is about. But anyway, at 18, got married and came to Bombay. For marriage, we were hand-to-mouth existence. My husband sent me 2,000 rupees. With that, me, my mother, and my grandma, 3 of us came for the wedding. And it was during emergency time, during Indira Gandhi's. So the wedding was in a very simple way. With gold spot, we managed. The whole program was over with one gold spot. That was the wedding. So and then at 18, I came to Bombay. First time entered this area, absolutely knowing nothing about it. But anyway, we slowly and slowly settled down. Once I settled down, since I was 18 in Hyderabad, I had just studied pre-university. We had PUC in Hyderabad, which was not recognized in Bombay. So I had to do inter-science again. So I lost a year in that. Managed to enter medical college, one of the oldest, best medical college in Mumbai, that is Grand Medical College, Jamshedji Jijabai Hospital. So in 68 I joined, took a break because my son was born. So that's why I was in Bhavani's batch in 1969. Entered medical college, managed to pass each year. Again, in the second MBBS, I had some health issues. There was a torsion of the ovarian cyst with pregnancy, second pregnancy. It was an emergency, but fortunately, the pregnancy continued well. The dermoid was removed, and I was the mother of 2 children. So, and with the 2 children, but the best part was my husband, since he was a general practitioner. Afternoon, he was free. So he could take care of the children in the afternoon. So a few hours, wherever I could manage, I go to college, come back earlier, close by. We used to live close by. Kamatipura is close to JJ Hospital. So that was an advantage I had. And plus family support from my husband's side. Managed to pass MBBS. Both the children were studying. So after MBBS, again another turn. So in this area of Kamatipura, we have about 15 lanes, different small lanes. Mainly the first, second, and third, and last 12, 11, 12, 13. These are the lanes where mainly these ladies are there. In between, we have normal, usual, normal family life. So we were in the third lane, so at the junction of this area only. So when I passed my MBBS, we got an opportunity, we got a small place which was a Ghode ka tabela. It was a stable of the horse. There was an empty space just next to my house. So there are people around there. They said, since there are no qualified lady doctors in this area, and since my language was their advantage, why don't you start practice? That is how I started my practice. I'll show you the photograph of my clinic then and now, absolutely the same after 13 years of practice in the same area. It is just the same. The only thing I've grown older. So we started with in that practice. Earlier, my husband used to sit. Slowly and slowly, I started sitting. To start with, in the beginning, I had mainly family practice. Young ladies with normal, general practice I used to do. In the meantime, once these people came to know that I can speak their language, because mainly the ladies were at that time, mainly they were from the border of Andhra and Karnataka. So they were so that language was there. Slowly, they also started coming to me. The thing, supposing there are 10, 12 patients waiting outside, when you open the door, you can just make out who is the lady belonging to this group. You know, they have got a peculiar odor, they have got that fear in their eyes, a little shyness, and that after all pain. When they come to us, they come with so many problems. You could easily make out. And they never come alone. Invariably, they are accompanied by either a pimp who waits outside, or very, very rarely, madam also apart. You know about the madam, I'll tell you later on. So she accompanies. And they will come and request, please see this patient faster, so earlier, so that she can go home, finish her lunch, take some rest, so that she's ready for her work at the night. That's how the things used to be. But I must have seen all types of STDs with me. People, the way they come to you, your heart just breaks. They come with so much pain, multiple ulcers, false swelling, discharge. And that time HIV was very prevalent about 20, 25 years back. And awareness was not there.
Need to
using
project
condom,
this on the
nothing of
screen.
that sort. So that, and with most of the things were gonorrheas, other syphilis was not there much, but I must have seen so many ulcers. I must have seen so many wart. That was another incident which I can never forget. A lady came with full, you know, there's not a small place left where there's not a wart. And if there is unnatural sex, even in the anal region. It was very painful to see. And these people are from the very low class area. So when they go, actually we had never asked for money, but whatever it is, when they take out 10 and 20 rupees from their blouse, that feeling is miserable. You can't bear it. So we used to get the medicine from whatever I could help them, get it from the store and give it to them. That way we used to help them. So that was one group of these ladies who used to come. Then there was another second group, little better, in the sense they were better from little professionally, financially little better, but more beautiful girls. They were mainly from Nepal side and northeast. So these girls were mainly dancing girls. They were not directly into this profession. So ultimately dancing in the beer bars and whatever it is, a group of sisters and cousins, once one person comes, they bring all, because survival is better in a place like Bombay. So these girls used to come. Ultimately, they also used to come with the same problems, same STD problems. That was the second set of patients I used to get. And third, there are certain incidences I would like to tell you. One is, there was a lady, HIV positive patient. She expired during delivery. She was pregnant. She expired during delivery. So that child, there was quite a good demand, because she was a girl child. Good demand was there for her because she's a small baby. but somebody who's working as a domestic help in that, with that HIV mother, she adopted that girl. Otherwise, even though she herself was hand-to-mouth survivor, but she adopted that girl from of that HIV mother, and now that girl is a graduate working in a place. Otherwise, even though she was poor, when she was offered money to give the child for this profession later when she grows up, she refused. That was one incident. Then there were, underage girls. They were also more like 14, 15, small girls, young girls. One incident I can remember very well. These girls, they used to be police raid. Sometimes this raid was quite serious, like for a few days it would continue. So the girls were brought from their brothels and they were hidden on the, what do you call it? In the house they have got something like a chajja, small space where they could hide these girls. Like a loft. They were hidden there. So in this incident, there were 3 small girls. So since they were there for almost 6 to 8 days, they were smart enough. They used to make, each night they used to make a small hole on the wall, and ultimately by the grace of God, all the 3 escaped. That was the best part for us. It was such a good news for us that they survived all the 3. The third class, then we used to have a lot of transgenders and all those people. They also used to come with all unnatural, mainly STDs only, but few of them, mainly it was ladies. So this was one part of practice which I had in Kamatipura. The second was, we have a dhobi ghat, where, washing clothes in the stagnant water, using the cheap soap, and they are working for long time in water. So most of them, they come with all the fungal infections or washerwoman's disease, most of them, young girls. And these young girls, after marriage, when they come to Bombay, then from Andhra. So by the time they are 20, 22, 2 LSCS and sterilized. Over. By that time their family is over. At least, fortunately, they used to get sterilized. That was the best part. And another which I've seen in these people, leukorrhea is very common for every woman. They always say, I have got white discharge, and for that, hysterectomies. So by the time they are 30, 35, many of the women in this area of Kamatipura, where there are washerwomen, they are without uterus. That was the other things. What else can I do? Certain...
My God,
no,
this is quite fascinating.
No, but
right?
Every day when I used to go home, my God, that when I think of these children and these cases, it was very hard for me. So this continued for the last 20, 25 years I've been doing this work. Now the things have changed because now we have got a lot of clinics by the municipality has taken a lot of clinics. Bill Gates has started a lot of work for HIVs. So there are a lot of small clinics, so they're better off. And with the TV and with all mobile, and they're aware of all these different STDs. And now I'm not into much of this practice. Now practice has changed. Because first of all, this area, most of them have gone to suburbs rather than in this common. Even now we have, I'll show you some photographs which we do have, but compared to earlier it was less. The other thing I must tell you is in this Telugu border same Andhra and Karnataka, there's a custom where when a girl is born, the child is dedicated to goddess Ellamma. Which is, she is a Durga form of Durga only. So as the child grows up, she is absorbed into this profession. That is, the parents themselves sacrifice the child, thinking that it will be good for her future, whatever it is. That is their concept. It still goes on. But now the things have changed. Now my practice is different. Now I mainly have family practice with mainly gynec only, but normal DUBs and all those practice. But what I have learned from them...
Thank you, Damayanti. That was amazing, the picture that she paints of that whole area and what, people go through there and what she actually saw. Yeah.
2 minutes I will try to tell you what difficulties I have faced going to this place. The moment you ask the taxi driver, I want to go to Kamatipura. ऐसी जगह पे हम नहीं आ सकते. We cannot go there. And even if they come, they will drop you at the main road. You carry all your luggage, water, dabba, and all that, and go to the clinic. They will never come. On the top of it, they'll advise you. Why do you live in there? Why do you do the work in this place? Is this the place for working? That's what they advise. So you should move from here.
Yeah.
That's their tendency.
Yeah. This is.
Thank you so much.
Damayanti, we salute you, for what the work that you have been doing that in that area for so many years. Those women were fortunate to have a provider like you. Yeah.
One time, I lost my husband about 22 years back to cancer. So on the 5th day, I started how I overcame my grief was this place. For me, this Kamatipura is my heaven. The amount of happiness I get there, I forgot all my grief. My both children are one is in UK, one is in USA. Both of them are they well settled. But now my mother used to stay with me for almost 10 years. Now she also passed away. So now I'll never say I'm alone, but I have a good support system. But still, Kamatipura is my heaven. And I will never leave it till the end. That is for sure.
Wow.
Thank you.
It's a real eye-opener for the rest of us, I think many of us live very sheltered lives when I think about it, If you think about it, especially for the women, initially their father shelters them, and after that it's their husbands and their sons, their whole family, gives you that protective cover. So my next question is for Geeta Atreya. So you've been involved with UNICEF in many parts of the world. So can you tell us a little bit about the children's programs? And also you did mention that, you encountered a lot of human trafficking, in many places. So please tell us a little bit about that.
Thank you, Bhavani. When you hear such wonderful stories, one doesn't really think that one has done anything great in one's life. So I'm kind of honored to be in this company. And I actually have had what one would call a kind of a dream run. And because if I were to say my life history, in fact, I grew up in a little bit in Tanjavur, and that is how I know Ramana and Bhavani. Just imagine there's somebody in this room who actually knows your father and has memories of your mother, because he said, you look like your mother. And I said, that was a long time ago. And Damayanti said that she was 76. I'd like you to guess my age, no? Certainly older than that. No? So
we'll put it to the audience, and whoever guesses the right age, we'll give them a prize.
So it's not so important anyway. So I grew up in Tamil Nadu, and I had some schooling in Tanjavur, which is where my father's family came from. And we moved to Chennai, and my father was in the police. And he was a great supporter of the freedom movement. To have been in the police before the 50s and to be a supporter of the freedom movement means that you're really actually doing something, like underhand, isn't it? Because the government was British, but you're supporting the Congress party. And so my father had a lot of interesting friends. And all of that came into fore as I grew up. I realized, what interesting people that my father knew, and he supported them. He got them out of all these, all these agitations that they were mounting all the time. So there was Mr. Raju Gopal, who later became the first secretary of the Congress party. If somebody remembers him, he used to live here in Delhi on Ferosha Road. So I also like Anita, maybe not quite so illustrious, grew up with a lot of people who were great supporters of the freedom movement. I suppose at that time everybody did. And my mother was a great, again, influence in my life in terms of how she wanted me to really be a BA. She was asked, you want your BA, your daughter to be a BA at the age of 4 years, is it? So she was so keen on my education that I really sailed through school. I went to the very nice school in Chennai called Vidyodaya, Vidyodaya Girls High School, very popular then, and came under the influence of this wonderful principal of the school called Miss Appaswamy. And it was a most modern kind of a school for those days, in the 50s. Can you imagine, we learned about Western art, Western music, Indian music, all kinds of handicrafts. So it was a very modern, fantastic kind of education. I still remember everything that I learned in school because it was quite so powerful. Then I came to Delhi for a year, actually. My father was posted here at that time. I don't know, Ramanan may remember that. And he is supposed to, I didn't know this, but my uncle later told me that he had worked on some fabulous, interesting, he was an investigator, interesting cases. Like, for instance, the TTK case, like the Hazrat Bal, hair being lost, the Hazrat Bal case, where the Prophet's hair was lost, and then they later found it. He is supposed to have cracked all these cases. So he was quite an interesting and important investigator, and I knew about this only much later, as my uncle came up with these stories. I came back to Chennai, did my BA in SIT college, went to Madras Christian College because that's what everybody did. SIT was a girls' college, and I loved being in Madras Christian College, which was a co-ed college. Met so many interesting people there, so many interesting boys. And that was also a time, actually, Bhavani, when she was reading out my not-so-glorious CV, left out the most important fact of my life, in the sense, maybe it was there and she just, it was not there and she missed it. I was one of the earliest girls from South India, perhaps the first girl from South India to go to the Institute of Management in Calcutta. So one of the first, it's just an accident, I think, But there were only 3 girls in the institute, and I was literally the 3rd girl in the institute, and that too from Madras, Chennai. So I went through this fascinating MBA course in Calcutta in the 60s. So you can imagine how long ago it was. And immediately got a job with Citibank, in Chennai. And I think I was also perhaps the first woman to be hired by Citibank from an Institute of Management. And just after about a year and a half, I moved to Bombay, the glorious city. I've always liked it, to Glaxo Laboratories, in their new family products division. So I think my tryst with medicine began there. Okay, sure, we can wrap up. Anyway, I later joined UNICEF. I'm skipping a lot, so it doesn't matter. I later joined UNICEF in 1985 in Delhi and had this fantastic 20-year run with them. I joined as a nutrition officer, and therefore I got to deal with all medical and nutrition issues. I was in the health and nutrition division, and I got, as a communication person, and I got so involved in it that in medical conferences, everybody was really convinced. I attended a medical conference once in Kerala where they asked me whether I'm a gynecologist or a pediatrician, and I was neither. So I'm a communication person. So that is how one of the best communication campaigns that still exists in India are 2 things. Actually, this kind of a thing that I worked on is from Glaxo onwards. It still exists. Those campaigns still exist. One is on iodized salt, the promotion and use of iodized salt. And the campaign is called Shakti or Buddhi Ka Rakshak. In fact, if you Google it, you will get a nice poster like this, and this is my campaign. And the last campaign that I worked on was polio eradication. So I worked on many things. All those spots that you see on television with Amitabh Bachchan were like, produced by, well, not by me, but I was the one who's handling it in UNICEF. So we had Mr. Bachchan speak about polio in many of these, hundreds of these spots that you see on television. I think you still sort of see them.
Yeah.
You asked about human trafficking.
Yeah.
There was a lot of child trafficking that goes on, as you know. And I didn't directly work on it, but I always worked in health and nutrition. But we were always involved when the children were found or when the children had to be brought back. There was a big component of health and nutrition that we had to address. So I wasn't directly involved in human trafficking, or not in that division.
Okay. Thank you so much. So please, a round of applause for all our panelists. This was thought-provoking and very informative, don't you think? Can I hear a yes from our audience? Did you enjoy this? Okay. So now, do we have something to give them as a token? Shubham? Shubham? Do we have something for our guests? So can I have our president, Dr. Anjana Samadar, to come to the stage, please? And can I see Dr. Srinivasan in the audience, Dr. M. Srinivasan. Could you please come to the stage, sir? So we're going to honor our guests this evening. Can I have Dr. Sumal Rawal on stage too?
Oh, Dr. Srinivas.
Yes.
Dr. Srinivas. Please, Dr. Srinivas.
Yes, I did call him. I did. Who? My husband? Yes. No, it's okay. You were I said M. Srinivas, right? Okay, so this award is for Mrs. Geeta Atreya. Please. Can I call on Dr. Anita Ratnam? Just a token of our appreciation, Anita. Dr. Damayanti Karkare. Please, a round of applause for Dr. Damayanti as well. And Dr. Madhushri Kotwal. A round of applause for all our distinguished panelists. Thank you so much. Many of them have come just to be on this panel. Dr. Anita Ratnam flew in from Chennai. Damayanti flew in from Bombay. Madhushri flew in from which city? From Hyderabad. I think Mrs. Atre was the only one who was local, but everybody came in from different cities just to be part of our panel. Can we get a group picture, ladies, in front?
Anjana, Anjana, can we have you for a second? Anjana. Please come. Yeah, that's enough.